I filed for divorce the day after my wife tried to manipulate me, and I don't regret it for a second. That confession probably catches you off guard. Most people expect a story of escalation, of fights and counseling sessions, and desperate attempts to save what's left. But sometimes the clearest moments of your life come when someone shows you exactly who they are, and you finally have the courage to believe them. My name is Thomas Bennett. I'm 35, a quality control manager at a manufacturing plant outside Toledo, pulling in $78,000 a year. Not rich, not poor, solid middle class with a steady paycheck and benefits. My parents raised me to understand that marriage means teamwork, not transactions. You work together, you support each other, you build something bigger than either of you could manage alone. That's what I thought Jessica and I had built. Jessica Claire Bennett. She took my name when we married 5 years ago, something that made my old-fashioned heart swell with pride. She's 33 now, with auburn hair that catches sunlight like copper wire and green eyes that used to dance when she laughed. When we met 6 years ago at a community fundraiser for the Children's Hospital, she was managing a retail store downtown, pulling decent money and talking about maybe going back to school for business management. 2 years into our marriage, we made a decision together. Jessica was burning out on retail, the long hours, difficult customers, weekend shifts that ate into our time. I was getting promoted, my income was steady and growing, and honestly, we both liked the idea of traditional roles. She'd manage our home, and I'd bring in the income. Both jobs essential, both equally valuable. I need you to understand this. I never saw Jessica as lesser, never treated her contributions as less important than mine. She transformed our house into a home, handled finances, meal planning, social schedules, maintained our relationships with both sets of parents. She had structure, purpose, pride in what she built. And I had someone to come home to who genuinely wanted to hear about my day. We met at that fundraiser on a rainy October evening. I was there because my company had bought a table. She was there because she'd organized her store's donation drive. We talked for 3 hours about everything and nothing. Her love of true crime podcasts, my weekend hiking habit, our shared obsession with cooking shows we never had time to actually follow. 6 months of dating, long walks and quiet dinners and conversations that stretched past midnight. I proposed at the same vineyard where we'd had our third date, and she cried in a way that told me I'd gotten everything right. Our wedding was perfect. Small ceremony at that vineyard, 2 weeks honeymooning in Greece, Jessica glowing in sundresses while I played photographer, both of us drunk on possibility and future plans. We came home to our house, my house, technically, bought before I met her, and settled into routines that felt as comfortable as breathing. Friday movie nights with takeout Chinese and her feet in my lap, Sunday morning pancakes that I'd flip while she read me interesting articles from her phone. Weekend hikes where we'd pack sandwiches and talk about everything we wanted to do, places we wanted to see, the life we were building step by step. We had our disagreements, of course. Jessica could be stubborn about loading the dishwasher her way, and I had a tendency to leave coffee cups around the house. But we talked things through like adults, compromised like partners, never let anything fester into resentment. Jessica had her monthly girls' nights, high school friends she'd maintained relationships with despite different life paths. I encouraged it. She deserved time with friends, deserved to laugh and gossip and remember who she was before she became half of Thomas and Jessica. I trusted her completely. Now I need to tell you about those friends, because their names will matter later. Brianna Hayes, married to a corporate lawyer, always arriving to gatherings with some new designer purse or jewelry that she'd flash around like proof of her worth. Vanessa Moore, married to a real estate developer, more interested in what her husband could provide than who he actually was. And Tiffany Moore, on her third engagement after 2 divorces, treating marriage like a business transaction with exit clauses. I'd jokingly warned Jessica about Brianna's influence before, how she seemed to measure love by the price tags attached to it. But I never seriously worried. Jessica had a good head on her shoulders, strong values, genuine contentment with our life. Last Friday evening, this was just 1 week ago, I kissed Jessica goodbye as she headed out for girls' night, told her to have fun and not let Brianna talk her into anything crazy. "I'll behave," she promised with a laugh. "I'll probably be home by 11. I watched her drive away in her Honda Civic, completely unaware that I was watching the last normal moment of our marriage disappear down our street. I had no idea that kiss goodbye would be the last normal moment of our marriage. By Monday evening, the woman I married would be gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. What I'm about to tell you, I pieced together later from Jessica's own admissions, details she revealed during our final confrontation when she was desperate to explain, to make me understand how everything went so wrong so fast. The girls met at Bella Vista, that upscale bistro downtown where entrees start at $30 and the wine list requires a second mortgage. Champagne flowing, designer bags displayed like trophies on the table, 4 women in their 30s pretending their problems could be solved with the right credit limit. Brianna arrived first, naturally, flashing her anniversary gift, a Chanel bag worth more than I make in a month. "I told Michael if he didn't step up this year, he'd be sleeping on the couch until Christmas," she announced, like extortion was relationship advice. "Men need to understand what they have to lose." Vanessa laughed, swirling her overpriced wine. "I use the bedroom like a reward system," she bragged. "Perform well, get access, slack off, get locked out. Works like a charm." Jessica told me later she felt uncomfortable, that their words didn't sit right. This wasn't the relationship wisdom she wanted to hear. But then Tiffany leaned forward with the poison that would destroy everything we'd built. "You have to train them, Jessica," Tiffany declared with authority. "Make them work for your attention, your affection, your time. Otherwise, they take you for granted." "That sounds manipulative," Jessica responded, and I can picture her frowning, her instincts fighting against their influence. But they were ready for her resistance. They always are. "Look at your life," Brianna pressed. "You cook, you clean, you manage the house while Thomas goes to work and comes home to everything handled. What does he do to earn that? What does he do to show he appreciates you?" "He provides for us," Jessica replied defensively. "He works hard. The bare minimum," Vanessa interrupted sharply. "Any man should work. But what else? When's the last time he surprised you? Brought you flowers for no reason? Planned something special just because?" I can see them systematically dismantling Jessica's contentment, reframing our partnership as her servitude, my provision as basic obligation, our happiness as her settling for less than she deserved. "You're too easy," Tiffany declared, and this is the line that sealed our fate. "You give him everything he wants, clean house, hot meals, regular intimacy, and ask nothing in return. No wonder he's comfortable. You've trained him to expect everything and give nothing." "So what are you suggesting?" Jessica asked, and later she told me her voice was small, uncertain. "Stop," Brianna said simply. "Stop cooking, stop cleaning, stop making his life comfortable until he starts making yours special." "Withhold intimacy," Vanessa added with a cruel smile. "That'll get his attention faster than anything else." "Make him work for what he's been getting for free," Tiffany concluded. "If you don't take control now, you'll just be his maid forever." Jessica left that dinner conflicted, but the seeds were planted. Her friends had poisoned our well with whispers disguised as empowerment. Saturday morning, I woke to an empty bed. No Jessica curled against my shoulder, no smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. I found her in the living room, still in her pajamas, scrolling through her phone with an expression I'd never seen before. Cold, distant, calculating. "Morning, beautiful," I said, leaning down to kiss her cheek. She turned away. The coffee pot was empty, no breakfast prepared. Jessica, who'd been making me weekend pancakes for 3 years, acted like I didn't exist. I made my own coffee, scrambled my own eggs, tried to give her space to work through whatever was bothering her. But it got worse. The house, usually spotless, began deteriorating. Dishes piled in the sink. Laundry overflowed the baskets. Jessica sat on the couch, phone in hand, watching everything fall apart like an observer rather than a participant. Sunday was worse. I worked a full day at the plant, weekend overtime to help us save for the vacation Jessica had been planning, and came home to chaos. The kitchen was a disaster. Takeout containers scattered across counters, our bedroom door closed and locked. I knocked softly. "Jess? Everything okay?" "I'm resting," came her cold reply. Monday evening, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I found Jessica in the living room, still glued to her phone, the house around us looking like strangers lived here. "We need to talk," I said, sitting across from her. She looked up with eyes that belonged to someone else, ice where warmth used to live. "Yes, we do," she replied flatly. "What's going on? What's wrong?" I asked. Jessica straightened, and I could see her friend's words in her posture, their poison in her voice. "I do too much around here," she declared. "I cook, I clean, I manage everything while you coast through life thinking that's just how it works." "Coast through life? I work 50 hours a week to support us," I protested. "The bare minimum," she interrupted, and I heard Vanessa's words in her mouth. "I don't feel appreciated. I don't feel valued. I'm not your maid, Thomas." "I never treated you like a maid. We're partners," I started. "No," she said, standing now, rehearsed words flowing like she'd practiced them. "I won't cook for you anymore. I won't clean up after you. I won't be intimate with you until you start showing me that you value what I bring to this marriage." I stared at her, processing what I was hearing. "How? How do I show you?" I asked. The question that ended everything. Jessica's smile was sharp, cruel, completely foreign on her face. "Figure it out," she replied coldly. I stood there for a long moment, looking at this stranger wearing my wife's face. Then I did something that surprised us both. I simply said, "Okay," and walked away. Jessica waited for me to come back, to argue, to beg, to chase her like her friends promised I would. But I never did. That night, sitting alone in my living room, I made a decision that would change both our lives forever. Jessica thought she was taking control of our marriage. She had no idea she'd just ended it. While she waited for me to chase her, I was making a phone call that would destroy everything she thought she knew. That Monday night, I sat alone in my living room while Jessica locked herself in our bedroom, probably texting her friends about her successful power move. The silence felt heavy, oppressive, like the air before a thunderstorm. Everything familiar about my home suddenly felt foreign. I thought about the woman I'd kissed goodbye on Friday night, the woman who laughed at my terrible jokes, who squeezed my hand during scary movies, who used to trace patterns on my chest while we talked about our future. That woman was gone, replaced by someone following a script written by toxic influences masquerading as friends. As a quality control manager, I'm trained to identify defects, determine if they're fixable, and decide on appropriate action. System failures don't get emotional responses. They get methodical analysis. The defect was clear. Jessica had chosen manipulation over communication, ultimatums over conversation, games over genuine partnership. She hadn't come to me with concerns or problems to solve together. She'd ambushed me with demands and conditions, treating our marriage like a negotiation where intimacy and household partnership were bargaining chips. The question was whether this defect could be repaired. I analyzed what had really happened. Jessica's friends had convinced her that our contentment was actually oppression, that my provision was somehow exploitation, that her freely chosen role was actually servitude. They'd taught her to weaponize affection, to withhold partnership, to hold our relationship hostage until I performed to their standards. But here's what cut deepest. Jessica had listened to them. After 5 years of genuine partnership, she'd chosen to believe that I was taking advantage of her rather than simply talking to me about feeling unappreciated. She'd decided to manipulate me instead of trusting me. That wasn't a communication problem. That was a character problem. And character problems aren't fixable through grand gestures or improved performance on my part. If I rewarded this behavior, if I played along with the manipulation, bought flowers and jewelry, begged for her affection, what lesson would that teach? That threatening our marriage gets results. That withholding love and partnership is effective leverage. That our relationship can be held hostage whenever her friends whisper poison in her ears. I wouldn't train myself to perform for affection like a circus animal. I wouldn't teach Jessica that manipulation works. I wouldn't set a precedent that our marriage could be threatened every time she felt momentarily dissatisfied. Sitting in that dark living room, I made my decision. I wouldn't chase her, wouldn't beg, wouldn't try to win her back through the very behavior that would validate her friend's toxic advice. I was done. Tuesday morning, I went to work as usual. Jessica was still locked in our bedroom when I left, and I didn't knock. During my lunch break, I made the call that would end everything. "Daniel Warren's office," the receptionist answered. "This is Thomas Bennett," I said. "I need to speak with Daniel about a personal legal matter." Daniel and I had known each other for years through poker nights with mutual friends. Good lawyer, straight shooter, someone I trusted to handle things professionally. "Thomas, good to hear from you," he replied warmly. "What's going on?" "I need divorce papers drawn up," I said simply. Long pause. "That's sudden. Everything okay?" he asked carefully. I explained the ultimatum, the manipulation, the toxic friends. Daniel listened without judgment, asked a few professional questions about assets and timeline. When I finished, his response was immediate. "You're not leaving her," he observed. "She already left you." "Exactly." "How soon do you need them?" he asked. "Tomorrow evening, if possible," I replied. "Consider it done," he confirmed. The conversation was brief, businesslike, final. No drama, no emotion, just two adults handling a transaction that would legally dissolve what had already been destroyed emotionally. I spent the rest of Tuesday and Wednesday maintaining perfect composure. I went to work, came home, handled my own needs. The house remained a disaster, Jessica's test, her proof that I needed her domestic labor to function. She stayed cold, distant, checking her phone constantly. I learned later she was texting her friends, celebrating her successful manipulation, waiting for me to break. She had no idea what was coming. Wednesday evening, I left work at exactly 5 o'clock. Stopped by Daniel's office to pick up the envelope. Sat in my car afterward, holding papers that weighed nothing and everything simultaneously. This was the point of no return. Once I walked through our front door with these documents, there would be no taking it back, no cooling off period, no chance for reconciliation. I thought about the woman I'd married 6 years ago, the woman who'd cried happy tears when I proposed, who'd danced with me at our wedding like we were the only people in the world. I grieved for her, for us, for the future we'd planned that would never exist. But I couldn't mourn someone who'd chosen to become a stranger. I started the engine and drove home. Walking up to our front door, I felt oddly calm. The envelope in my hand contained the legal framework for ending 5 years of marriage. But the real ending had happened Monday night, when Jessica chose manipulation over communication. When she decided to follow her friend's toxic playbook instead of trusting the man she'd promised to love and honor. I walked into that house with an envelope that weighed nothing and everything at the same time. Jessica was on the couch, probably thinking about what designer bag she'd demand next. She didn't even look up when I came in. She should have. I entered our house at 5:30 p.m. to find Jessica exactly where I'd expected. Sprawled on the couch, remote in one hand, phone in the other, surrounded by the deliberate chaos she'd created to prove her point. Dirty dishes covered every surface, laundry spilled from overflowing baskets, and the woman who'd once taken pride in our home sat in the middle of it all like a queen surveying her kingdom of neglect. She didn't greet me, didn't acknowledge my presence, just continued flipping through channels with the same cold indifference she'd shown for 3 days. I didn't announce myself. Didn't try to make conversation. Simply walked to the coffee table and slapped the manila envelope down directly in her line of sight. The sound made her glance over lazily, like I'd set down a bill or some mundane paperwork. "What's this?" she asked. Her tone was dismissive, bored, like she couldn't be bothered with whatever trivial matter I was presenting. "Open it," I replied simply. Something in my voice must have penetrated her indifference because she actually looked at me for the first time in 3 days. My expression apparently told her nothing because she shrugged and picked up the envelope. She opened it with casual disinterest, probably expecting a work document or insurance forms. I watched her eyes scan the first page, watched the exact moment when the words "petition for dissolution of marriage" registered in her brain. Her face drained of all color. The papers slipped from suddenly nerveless fingers, scattering across the coffee table like the fragments of our marriage. What is this?" she stammered. She was laughing nervously, a high, brittle sound that belonged to someone on the edge of hysteria. "Thomas, this isn't funny." "I'm not laughing," I replied flatly. The simple statement hit her like a physical blow. She stood abruptly, papers falling to the floor, panic flooding her features as the reality began to sink in. "This is some kind of joke, right?" she asked desperately. "Some kind of manipulation tactic to get me to—" "No games, Jessica. No manipulation. Just consequences," I answered. "Consequences?" Her voice cracked on the word. "For what? For asking to be appreciated in my own marriage? For choosing to manipulate me instead of talking to me? For turning our partnership into a power game? For listening to your toxic friends instead of trusting your husband?" I explained coldly. She tried a different approach, switching to bargaining mode with desperate efficiency. Okay, maybe I handled things wrong," she pleaded. "Maybe I listened to bad advice, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work through—" "No," I said firmly. The word landed with finality that made her stagger backward. "No? That's it?" she cried out. "5 years of marriage and you won't even try?" "You didn't try, Jessica," I replied. "You decided our marriage needed fixing without ever talking to me about problems. You chose manipulation over communication. You weaponized our intimacy and partnership. You treated our relationship like a transaction." Tears were flowing now, but they felt calculated, strategic. "I was confused," she sobbed. "My friends were in my head. They made everything sound different than it was. I didn't mean—" "You meant every word Monday night," I interrupted. "You meant the ultimatum. You meant the manipulation. You meant treating me like a trained animal who had to earn your affection." She tried physical proximity then, stepping closer, reaching for my arm. I stepped back. "Don't touch me," I warned. The rejection shattered something in her facade. She crumpled onto the couch, sobbing harder now, the performance giving way to genuine panic as she realized I was serious. "I love you," she whispered, and for the first time in days, she sounded like the woman I'd married. "Thomas, I love you. Please don't do this. One more chance, that's all I need. I'll cut them off. I'll never listen to them again. "No," I repeated. "This is my home too," she screamed, desperation making her voice shrill. "You can't just throw me out. I have rights." I pulled out my phone and opened the documents Daniel had prepared. "The house is in my name," I explained calmly. "Purchased before our marriage, never added you to the deed. You have no legal claim to this property." Her face went white again. You planned this," she accused. "You've been planning this." "For 3 days," I confirmed, "since you decided to hold our marriage hostage." "I wasn't," she started. "You have 10 minutes to pack a bag with essential items," I cut her off. "Clothes, toiletries, whatever you need immediately. After that, I'm calling the police to escort you off my property." The finality in my voice broke through her denial like a hammer through glass. She stared at me with wide, desperate eyes, searching for any crack in my resolve. She found none. 9 minutes now," I announced. Jessica stumbled toward our bedroom, sobbing, grabbing clothes blindly and shoving them into an overnight bag. She kept trying to talk, to explain, to negotiate. 8 minutes, I called out. "Thomas, please, we can fix this," she cried from the bedroom. "I'll be different, I promise. I'll be the wife you married." 7 minutes, I continued. "I was stupid," she wailed. "I let them poison my mind, but I know better now. I love you." 6 minutes. She was throwing things into the bag now, phone charger, makeup, underwear, her movements becoming more frantic as the clock ticked down. 5 minutes. "This isn't you," she pleaded desperately. "You're not cruel like this. The Thomas I married wouldn't—" 4 minutes, I interrupted. "Throw away 5 years without even trying to—" She continued. 3 minutes. 2 minutes, I announced. She appeared in the living room, bag clutched against her chest, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "One more chance, Thomas," she begged. "Please, I'm begging you." 1 minute, I replied. I walked to the front door and opened it. Cool evening air flowed into our house, my house, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and new beginnings. Jessica stood frozen in the middle of the room, bag in her hands, looking around like she was seeing our home for the last time. Because she was. "Time's up," I declared. She walked to the door on unsteady legs, stopping in the doorway for one final plea. Her voice was broken, barely above a whisper. "Thomas, please. I love you," she whispered. I met her eyes for the first time since handing her the papers. "If you loved me, you never would have played games with our marriage," I replied. "Goodbye, Jessica." She left. I closed the door, locked it, stood there in the sudden silence, listening to her car start and drive away, taking 5 years of my life with her. Then I walked to the kitchen and started cleaning. That night, Jessica called me 17 times. I didn't answer. She texted 43 messages, apologies, explanations, promises. I blocked her number, because I meant what I said. We were done. And in the months that followed, she'd learn exactly what that meant. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. Clean, legal, done. I kept the house, my property from before the marriage. We split our joint savings 50-50, which amounted to about $12,000 each. Jessica got her car, her personal belongings, and the clothes she'd packed that final night. No alimony, no ongoing financial obligations, no messy custody battles over assets or children. Just 2 adults legally dissolving what had already been destroyed. Jessica went to her parents that first night, showing up on their doorstep with her overnight bag and a story about how I'd gone crazy, thrown her out without warning, refused to even discuss our problems. But Robert and Linda Moore knew me, had known me for 6 years, watched me treat their daughter with nothing but love and respect. Her father called me the next morning. "Thomas, Jessica told us what happened," he said heavily. "I want you to know, you did the right thing. I'm ashamed of my daughter, and I'm sorry you had to endure that manipulation." Her parents let her stay one night. Then Linda sat her down and told her to figure out her life because she'd destroyed the best thing that ever happened to her. Jessica found a small apartment across town and returned to retail work, starting over at 33 exactly where she'd been at 25. She cut off Brianna, Vanessa, and Tiffany completely. Blocked their numbers, deleted them from social media, blamed them for poisoning her marriage and ruining her life. They didn't care. They'd moved on to the next drama, the next woman to fill with toxic advice and destructive strategies. Meanwhile, I stayed in my house, kept my job, maintained my routines. I didn't date, wasn't ready, didn't need to. I wasn't lonely. I was at peace. For the first time in months, I could come home without wondering what manipulation awaited me, what game I'd be forced to play, what ultimatum would greet me at the door. I'm 35, divorced, and honestly, I'm at peace. Do I miss Jessica? I miss the version I thought I married, but that version was apparently an illusion, or at least easily corrupted by the right whispers from the wrong people. My final message is simple. Don't let toxic people poison your relationship. Don't let friends convince you to manipulate your partner. And if your partner tries to control you through games, ultimatums, or emotional blackmail, walk away. Marriage is supposed to be partnership, respect, communication, teamwork. The moment Jessica decided to play games, to manipulate me, to withhold affection like I was some trained animal performing for treats, that was the moment it ended. Life's too short to play games. I'm living proof of that. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from someone you love, because loving yourself has to come first, always. I used to believe in perfect love, not the fairy tale kind. I'm too practical for that. But the real kind. The kind where two people choose each other every day, build something solid together, weather storms side by side. I thought Sarah and I had that. I was wrong about a lot of things. My name is James Carter, and this is the story of how my marriage died and how I buried it. 4 years ago, at my friend Liam's 30th birthday party in downtown Chicago, I saw her across the room and felt something shift inside my chest. Sarah Carter was laughing with friends near windows overlooking the city, her dark hair catching light from chandeliers above. She wore a simple red dress that somehow made every other woman disappear. When she smiled, it was like watching the sun come up. I'm not the guy who usually approaches women at parties. I'm the one who finds a corner with good Wi-Fi and checks work emails. Senior software engineer at TechFlow Solutions, specializing in back-end architecture. Basically, I speak to servers better than people. But something about Sarah made me walk across that room, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Excuse me," I said, interrupting her conversation. "I'm sorry, but I had to tell you. You have the most beautiful laugh I've ever heard." She turned, and those dark eyes met mine. "That's either the sweetest pickup line ever, or you haven't heard many laughs," she replied with a smile. "Both," I admitted, and she laughed again. I was right. It was beautiful. We talked for 3 hours that night. She was a graphic designer, freelancing for small businesses while building her portfolio. She had this way of making everything sound like an adventure. Even grocery shopping became a quest for the perfect avocado. I told her about my work, expecting her eyes to glaze over, but she asked questions that showed she was really listening. When the party ended, I asked for her number with sweaty palms and racing heart. Our courtship was swift and intoxicating. Within 6 months, we were engaged. Our wedding was intimate but beautiful, held at a botanical garden Sarah had always dreamed of. The honeymoon in Bali was paradise, lounging on beaches, exploring temples, making promises under starlit skies. We returned to our modest but comfortable home in the suburbs, ready to build our future together. The first 2 years were genuinely happy. I worked long hours climbing the corporate ladder, while Sarah continued her design work from home. We had date nights every Friday, cooked together on Sundays, and talked about maybe starting a family in a few years. But gradually, things shifted. Sarah quit her job, claiming she wanted to focus on finding herself. I supported her decision, never questioning it. I trusted her completely. By year 3, distance between us had grown. I became absorbed in a major project at work, often coming home after 9 p.m., exhausted and distracted. Sarah complained about feeling lonely and neglected, but I dismissed it as temporary, just until the project finished. Sarah started spending more time at the gym, saying she needed to feel good about herself again. I encouraged it, happy she'd found an outlet. But lately, something felt off. Sarah was more secretive with her phone, tilting it away when I walked by. She started dressing differently. Tighter clothes, more makeup, even for just going to the gym. She'd come home flushed and energized, but distant from me. When I tried to initiate intimacy, she'd make excuses, headaches, exhaustion, not in the mood. It had been nearly 2 months since we'd been intimate. I told myself I was being paranoid, that work stress was making me see problems that weren't there. Until that Tuesday evening when I decided to clean the guest bedroom, a room we never used, kept pristine for visitors who never came. As I emptied the small trash can beside the bed, I froze. There, crumpled at the bottom, was a used condom. My blood turned to ice. We never used condoms. Sarah had an IUD, and we certainly never used that room. I stared at that condom in my hand, my mind racing. Who was in my house? How long had this been happening? And most chilling of all, what else had I missed while I was too busy being the perfect, trusting husband? Sleep didn't come that night. I lay beside Sarah, watching her peaceful face in darkness, wondering who she really was, the woman I married, or a stranger wearing her face. By morning, I'd made my decision. I needed concrete proof before I acted. I'm a software engineer. Solving problems through logic and data is what I do best. This would be no different. I started small. Over the next few days, I casually observed Sarah's patterns. She went to the gym every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 a.m. to noon. But when I secretly checked our credit card statements, there were no gym membership charges. I created a fake account and searched for the gym she claimed to attend, Elite Fitness on Maple Street. I scrolled through their Instagram, and there he was, Matthew Adams, personal trainer, with his perfect jawline and sculpted abs, posing in every other post. Comments from women filled each photo. My jaw tightened. I dug deeper. Sarah's phone records showed dozens of calls to an unknown number, often late at night when she claimed to be already asleep. Text messages were minimal. They were probably using a different app. Smart, but not smart enough. I ordered discreet security cameras online, choosing models small enough to hide in plain sight. I paid extra for rush delivery and cloud storage with live streaming capabilities. That weekend, Sarah mentioned visiting her sister. I seized the opportunity. Within 3 hours, I'd installed cameras in the living room, hidden in a bookshelf, master bedroom in the smoke detector, guest bedroom in the nightstand clock, and kitchen behind the microwave. I tested each one from my phone, ensuring crystal clear video and audio. The technology was perfect. The trap was set. But cameras weren't enough. I needed the perfect scenario, one where Sarah felt completely safe, completely free to do whatever she'd been doing. That Monday, I casually mentioned at breakfast, "I have to fly to Seattle for a work conference, leaving Thursday, back next Wednesday. Week-long thing." Sarah's eyes lit up for just a fraction of a second before she composed herself. "That's sudden," she said, but her voice betrayed her excitement. "Will you be okay here alone?" I asked, playing my role perfectly. "Of course," she smiled, touching my hand. "I'll miss you." I booked a hotel room 15 minutes from our house under a fake name, paying cash. I packed my suitcase Thursday morning, making a show of my departure. Sarah kissed me goodbye at the door, already dressed in her best athleisure wear. "Have a safe flight," she said. "Love you." "Love you too," I replied, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. I drove away, watching her in the rearview mirror as she immediately pulled out her phone. From my hotel room, I opened the app on my laptop and phone, syncing the live feeds. I ordered room service, settled into the chair, and waited. At 11:37 a.m., my phone pinged. Motion detected. I watched as Sarah opened the front door and Matthew walked in like he owned the place. They didn't even hesitate. Immediately kissing in the foyer, hands everywhere. My hands trembled as I gripped my phone. But I didn't move. Not yet. I watched them drink my expensive scotch, the bottle I'd been saving for a special occasion. I watched Matthew carry Sarah to the guest bedroom, the same room where I'd found the condom. I watched everything, recording every second to the cloud. The rage inside me was volcanic, but my mind was clear. I opened WhatsApp and created a new group, Family Emergency. I added Sarah's parents, Henry and Victoria Carter, her older brother Evan, and her two younger sisters, Ava and Natalie. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Not yet. Timing was everything. At 12:15 p.m., as Matthew and Sarah lay naked in the guest bed, laughing about something I couldn't hear, I copied the live stream link, took a breath, and hit send to the group chat. The message was simple. I'm sorry you have to see this, but you deserve to know the truth about Sarah. Then the link. My phone exploded with activity. The group chat lit up with confused messages, then shocked emojis, then furious all-caps texts. Within 90 seconds, Sarah's phone started ringing. I watched through the camera as she reached for it, saw her mother's name, and answered. I could hear Victoria's screaming even through Sarah's phone. Sarah's face went white. She dropped the phone. Matthew asked what was wrong. She couldn't speak. Sarah frantically searched the room for cameras, her hands shaking, her voice breaking as she tried to explain to her mother what was happening. Matthew was frozen, realizing he'd been caught in a trap. And I, watching from my hotel room, finally allowed myself a cold smile. Justice was coming. I sat in my hotel room, watching chaos unfold through multiple camera feeds. Sarah was crying hysterically, trying to cover herself with a sheet while simultaneously searching for cameras. Matthew had grabbed his clothes and was dressing frantically, his earlier confidence completely shattered. The WhatsApp group chat had exploded. Over 40 messages in 2 minutes. Victoria was demanding Sarah answer her phone. Henry had written, "How could you do this to James? To our family?" Evan's message was simpler. "I'm coming over. Don't you dare leave." Sarah finally located the camera in the nightstand clock. She ripped it out, smashing it against the wall, but I was already recording from 3 other angles. She ran to the living room, searching desperately, her face streaked with tears and mascara. Matthew followed, dressed but pale. "I have to go. This is insane. I didn't sign up for this," he said nervously. Sarah grabbed his arm, begging him not to leave her alone, but he shook her off. "This is your problem, not mine," he replied coldly, heading for the door. That's when I saw Evan's car pull into the driveway. Sarah's brother was 2 years older than her, a construction contractor with arms like tree trunks and a protective streak a mile wide. I'd always liked Evan. He was honest, straightforward, and loyal, which was exactly why I'd added him to the group chat. Evan blocked the front door just as Matthew tried to leave. "Going somewhere?" Evan asked, his voice deadly calm. I checked my watch, 12:47 p.m. I closed my laptop, grabbed my car keys, and drove home. The 15-minute drive felt like both an eternity and an instant. My heart pounded, but my hands were steady. When I pulled into the driveway behind Evan's truck, I could hear shouting from inside the house. I walked in to find Evan holding Matthew by the collar, shoving him against the wall. Sarah was in the corner, wrapped in my bathrobe, sobbing. "James," she gasped when she saw me, her voice breaking. "James, I can explain." "Explain?" I replied, my voice ice cold. "Explain what, Sarah? Explain how you brought your lover into our home, into our bed? Explain how you've been f***ing him while I worked 60-hour weeks to give you everything you wanted?" My calm was more terrifying than any shouting could be. "Look, man, I didn't know she was—" Matthew tried to speak. "Shut up!" Evan snapped, slamming him against the wall again. "You knew exactly what you were doing." I looked at my brother-in-law. "Evan, I need you to understand something. I'm not angry at you for seeing that. I wanted you to see it. I wanted your parents to see it. Because Sarah would have lied. She would have twisted the story, made me the villain, and you would have believed her. So I showed you the truth. I saw enough. More than enough," Evan replied, his jaw tight. He looked at his sister with disgust. "You shamed our family, Sarah. You shamed yourself." Sarah collapsed onto the couch, her body shaking with sobs. I'm sorry. I was lonely. James was never home. You just decided to destroy our marriage instead of talking to me? I interrupted. You just decided to bring this piece of shit into our home, into the bed where we used to make love, and you thought you'd get away with it? What happened next was fast and brutal. I threw the first punch, connecting with Matthew's jaw. Evan joined in, and together we unleashed months of rage and betrayal. Matthew tried to fight back, but he was outnumbered and outmatched. Within minutes, he was on the floor, bloodied, begging us to stop. Sarah was screaming for us to stop, but neither man listened. "Get out!" I told Matthew, my voice shaking with controlled fury. "Get out of my house! Get out of this city! If I ever see you again, I'll finish what we started." Matthew stumbled to his feet, blood dripping from his nose and mouth, and limped out the door. The sound of his car speeding away echoed through the quiet neighborhood. I turned to Sarah. "Pack a bag. You have 20 minutes. Then you leave, and you never come back." "James, please," Sarah begged, reaching for me. "We can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll do anything." "You had your chance," I said coldly. "You made your choice. Now live with it." Evan pulled out his phone. "Mom and Dad are on their way. You need to face them too, Sarah." As Sarah desperately threw clothes into a suitcase, her phone rang again. Her mother, her father, her sisters, all calling at once. She'd been exposed, humiliated, and now she was about to lose everything she'd taken for granted. And I, standing in the doorway with my arms crossed, felt nothing but cold satisfaction. The next 72 hours were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and cold, calculated decisions. I sat in my attorney's office Monday morning, presenting evidence I'd collected: videos, time-stamped recordings, credit card statements, phone records, and the live stream now saved in multiple cloud accounts. My lawyer, Margaret, was a ruthless divorce attorney with a reputation for destroying unfaithful spouses in court. She watched the footage with neutral expression, then looked at me. "This is airtight," she said matter-of-factly. "She won't get a dime." I filed for divorce that afternoon, citing adultery with documented proof. In our state, infidelity affects asset division, and Margaret ensured the petition included every damning detail. I also changed all locks on the house, canceled Sarah's credit cards, and removed her from our joint bank account, all legal since I'd opened accounts before marriage and she'd simply been added. Sarah's calls and texts flooded my phone, but I blocked her number. She tried emailing. I filtered those too. She was erased. Sarah, meanwhile, was living in a nightmare. She'd fled to her childhood home expecting sympathy, but found only judgment. Her mother, Victoria, refused to hug her, couldn't even look at her. Her father, Henry, a traditional man who valued family honor above all else, told her she'd brought shame on the Carter name. "We raised you better than this," he said, his voice breaking. "How could you disrespect your marriage? Disrespect James, who gave you everything?" Sarah tried to explain the loneliness, the neglect, the need for attention, but her excuses fell flat. "You could have divorced him with dignity," Victoria snapped. "Instead, you humiliated yourself. You humiliated us." Evan wouldn't speak to her at all. Ava and Natalie, her younger sisters, were mortified. News of the affair had spread through their close-knit community. The Indian diaspora in their suburb was small, and gossip traveled fast. Within days, Sarah was uninvited from family gatherings, removed from group chats, blocked by extended relatives. Her aunts whispered about her in temple. Her cousins avoided her in grocery stores. She'd become a cautionary tale. Matthew had completely vanished. My private investigator, yes, I hired one, discovered Matthew left the city entirely, moving back to his hometown in California. His Instagram was deleted. His phone number was disconnected. He wanted nothing to do with the chaos he'd helped create. Sarah tried to reach him, desperate for some validation that their affair meant something, but he'd ghosted her. She realized with crushing clarity that he never cared about her. She was just an easy conquest, a married woman looking for excitement. She meant nothing to him. I, by contrast, received an outpouring of support. Sarah's family sided with me completely. Victoria called me weekly to apologize for her daughter's actions. Henry invited me to family dinners. Evan helped me repaint the guest bedroom, literally erasing the space where betrayal happened. My colleagues, who'd noticed Sarah's coldness at company events, weren't surprised by the divorce. Friends rallied around me, offering places to stay, distractions, and validation. I was the victim, the wronged husband, and society treated me accordingly. The divorce proceedings were swift and merciless. Sarah's lawyer tried to argue for spousal support, claiming she sacrificed her career for marriage, but Margaret decimated that argument with evidence of Sarah's affair and the fact that she quit her job voluntarily, not at my request. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, was clearly disgusted by video evidence presented in closed chambers. The final decree granted me the house, the car, our savings, and all assets acquired during marriage. Sarah got nothing. No alimony, no property, nothing. She was financially destroyed. 3 months after I sent that WhatsApp link, the divorce was finalized. I stood in my empty house, Sarah's belongings long since removed, and felt something I hadn't felt in months: peace. Not happiness, not yet, but peace. The wound was still fresh, but the infection had been cut out. I could heal now. I thought about Sarah sometimes, wondered where she was living, how she was surviving. The investigator mentioned she was renting a small apartment across town, working part-time at a coffee shop. Her design career never restarted. Potential clients Googled her name and found whispers, rumors. She'd been marked by her choices. I didn't feel guilty. Actions have consequences. She made her bed. Now she lies in it, alone. I poured myself a glass of the scotch Sarah and Matthew once drank, sitting in the living room where the affair was broadcast to the world. I toasted to the camera still hidden in the bookshelf, a reminder of the day I took control back. Justice was served. But what comes next? 6 months have passed since the divorce was finalized. I stand in my backyard watching the sunset paint the sky orange and purple. The house feels different now, lighter somehow, despite being the same structure. I've made changes: new furniture, fresh paint, refinished hardwood floors to erase every footprint of the life I used to live. The guest room is now my home office, equipped with standing desk and multiple monitors where I can code without ghosts haunting corners. Work has been my welcome distraction. The project that once consumed evenings was completed and earned me promotion to senior architect. My salary increased 30%, and I'm leading a team now. Colleagues noticed the change: sharper, more focused, but also colder, more guarded. I don't talk about my personal life anymore. Trust doesn't come easily. I've started seeing therapist Dr. Reeves, a kind woman who specializes in betrayal trauma. She's helped me process anger, humiliation, violation of my home and marriage. "You didn't deserve what happened," she tells me during our sessions, "but how you responded, that's who you are. You chose truth over ignorance. That takes strength." I'm not sure I feel strong. Most days I just feel tired, but there are good days too. Evan has become genuine friend, not just ex-brother-in-law. We meet for beers every other week, watching sports and never mentioning Sarah unless I bring her up. Victoria still calls me Beta, son, and sends homemade food in Tupperware containers. Henry shakes my hand with respect every time we meet. Sarah's family chose me, and that validation matters more than I want to admit. I've been on few dates, set up by well-meaning friends. They've been pleasant enough: coffee, dinners, conversations about work and hobbies. But I haven't felt ready for anything serious. The idea of vulnerability terrifies me. What if I miss signs again? What if I'm not enough again? That's normal, Dr. Reeves reassures me. Healing isn't linear. Sarah's life, from what I've heard through grapevine, has been much harder. She's still working at that coffee shop, barely making rent. Her design career never recovered, reputation destroyed, and no one in their community will hire her. She's been cut off from most family, allowed only minimal contact with sisters. Victoria refuses to see her, wound still too raw. Sarah tried to apologize to me once, sending long email explaining loneliness, mistakes, regret. I read it once, then deleted it. Some apologies are too little, too late. Matthew, investigator confirmed, is still in California, working at low-end gym and keeping very low profile. No more Instagram, no social media presence. He learned his lesson. Don't mess with quiet men. I've thought a lot about revenge, whether it was worth it. Would I do it again? Absolutely. Sarah didn't just cheat. She disrespected me, our vows, our home. She assumed I'd never find out, that she was smarter, that I was too weak or oblivious to notice. She was wrong, and world needed to see that. But revenge didn't heal me. It gave me justice, validation, proof that actions have consequences. But it didn't erase betrayal. It didn't make me stop loving woman I thought Sarah was. It didn't answer question that haunts late nights. What if I'd noticed sooner? What if I'd been home more? Could I have prevented this? Those questions are natural but futile, Dr. Reeves reminds me. You can't control another person's choices. Sarah made her decision. You made yours. Now you have to decide who you want to be moving forward. I'm not sure yet. But I know one thing. I won't be man who ignores red flags ever again. I won't trust blindly, give my whole heart without protecting it. Maybe that's sad. Maybe that's survival. I finish my drink, go inside, and lock door behind me. The house is silent, but it's my silence, my space, my peace. For now, that's enough. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.